Good morning. So day two we start getting into the slightly longer fasts. Now this is where we amplify the fat burning, but we also now start to bring in things like what's called autophagy. Now I want to really try and simplify this as much as possible, but also debunk a few myths about what autophagy is and fasting and stuff like that. So remember, the longer we go without food, the lower our baseline insulin becomes, the more on the baseline our blood sugar comes, the more chance of us releasing glucagon, which means that we're burning fat for fuel. The longer we fast, the more fat we burn, but also the more protein we potentially burn, which is muscle fiber, which is why we have to make sure that we get that protein shake as our our fast breaker, to make sure that we're getting the optimum amount of protein per day. At least half that has been delivered, pretty close to half that has been delivered in your protein shake, because we've got 2 scoops of protein in your protein shake. So that's things that we need to make sure that we focus on. The longer we fast, the more fat we burn, but potentially the more muscle we burn. If we burn too much muscle, we get a decrease in metabolic rate. Metabolism starts to slow down. So we need to make sure in that eating window, and again, the shorter the eating window, the more critical it is that we hit that optimum amount of protein. All right, that's one of the golden rules of fasting. Protein is the key here. As calories decrease, obviously because we eat less food, because we have a shorter eating window, prioritizing protein goes up. So the food that you do eat must be protein first. It has to be your priority, just has to be. Right? So what is autophagy? The longer we start to fast, the body goes into survival mode. Basically, fasting is stress. It's what we'll call an adaptogen. Your body adapts to it because it's stressful. It's stressful in the body. All good things for you, right? Everything that's good for you is stress. You adapt to the stress. For example, lifting weights to make you stronger. You get stronger because you're adapting to the stress that you place on your muscle. We get fitter, our heart gets fitter with exercise because the heart is adapting to the stress that we place on it during exercise. This is why that your workouts have to have a certain amount of intensity and exertion. There has to be a certain amount of stress for adaptation to work and take place. That's why you see people in the gym for years just lifting the same wee weights or going for a wee walk thinking they're getting fitter, and they're not, because they're not actually placing stress demand on the body for the body to actually respond and get fitter and stronger. Well, this is the same thing. So when your body was under a time of fasting, it produces a stress response. The stress response is basically, think about it as survival. We are survival machines. We are adaptation machines. This is why we've evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to be who we are, because we can adapt to the cold, we can adapt to things where there's no food around, we can adapt to all kind of environmental changes to make sure that we survive. What happens when we go a long time with no food is insulin, like I said, goes down. When insulin goes down, you have another hormone called IGF-1, which is insulin growth factor hormone 1. Now, what insulin growth factor hormone does, it actually helps repair cells. So remember, every cell in your body has a function that's doing stuff. But after a while, that cell starts to sort of break down and deteriorate. What IGF does, IGF comes along and IGF repairs the cell so it can function better. Now, it used to be thought that that was a really good thing. So if we eat meals small and often during the day, we're getting these wee insulin spikes all the time because there's energy coming in. With that insulin spike comes IGF-1, insulin growth factor 1, insulin growth factor. It helps the cells repair. Like bodybuilders, for example, will actually inject IGF-1 to make the muscle repair better, so the muscle gets bigger and stronger, because that's what they're trying to do whenever they're training, to get the muscle bigger and stronger. So cell repair is optimum for them. They want that to happen so this muscle gets bigger quicker. But what happens if you imagine that cell constantly being repaired and constantly being repaired and constantly being repaired? After a while, it becomes it starts to mutate. Think of this as a part in your car. The part in your car breaks. You go to a mechanic, and all he does is fix that part. It breaks down again, and he fixes it. It breaks down again. Well, after a while, the part is unfixable. It just stops to function properly. On the cellular level, it starts to mutate and do things. Now, this mutation can be things like cancerous tumors and stuff like that. That's a cell mutation. Cancer is basically just a cell that mutates out of where it's supposed to be and causes other things that shouldn't be happening. Right. So what happens when we fast? When we go a long time with no food, the body literally goes into autophagy. Autophagy, or autophagy as it's called in some places, it's actually a Greek word for to eat thyself. So what happens is the body takes these cells that aren't really working great and actually breaks them down for energy. It eats the cell. So when it eats the cell, it then has to renew the cell. So instead of fixing the cell, instead of repair, it's instead of cell renewal. Does that make sense? So the body's renewing the body cells rather than trying to constantly repair the cells. So even any cell that was maybe damaged or has started a bit of mutation will be eaten in a state of autophagy. So you're eating all the old cells. So think about it as a fountain of youth from the inside out. But this goes right down to your nails, your hair, your skin, your organs, your liver, your heart. Everything's always in a state of repair. We want it to be a state of cell renewal rather than cell repair. And that's what autophagy is. Now, long fasts over 20 hours take you deep into an autophagy state. You'll hear people sometimes doing like a 3-day fast for autophagy, right? Which is great, it's very good. But again, the issue is here, you're eating yourself. The body doesn't discriminate between what it eats. It will start to break down muscle tissue, which is why we have to prioritize that protein. Because again, muscle tissue means a slowdown of the metabolic rate, which means a slowdown of all your metabolic and cellular functions. So we want to try and counteract it at the same time. So other things that we can do that will induce autophagy, or if we're doing a long fast, how can we amplify autophagy? The number one thing for amplifying autophagy, or even nearly as good as doing like a 24-hour fast, is resistance training. Because what does resistance training do? What does weightlifting do? It's breaking down muscle fiber. So it's also an autophagy state. So if we're doing long fasts and we're doing resistance training and aerobic work, because we're using fat for fuel, we're going deeper into that autophagy state. So we're amplifying. Think about amplifying it. Sauna, deep into autophagy, stuff like that. So there's things that we can do to go deeper into it as we're doing it to really amplify it. So again, over the 5 days, I want to give you the best case scenario. How can I make this the best 5 days that I can put in? And even, like I said, if you're not someone who likes dieting, or you're not someone who tries to live in a calorie deficit, if you were to apply this 5-day protocol once a month, you would be in very good health, and you would be in very good state of weight management. Your body would slowly start to come down to its ideal weight, even if you're not one of these dieters or exercisers. But listening to the protocols and doing them 100% right really helps. So I hope that helps from an autophagy point of view. Please give me a thumbs up if we're still in the program. I know some of these are big wusses and couldn't even go up the 1 o'clock yesterday without fasting. Guys, I'm going to be really honest with you. It is absolutely ridiculous that someone can't go 24 hours without fasting. You might turn and go, oh Jesus, I would die, I wouldn't have any food. Bollocks. The only reason we evolved the way we did is because our body is actually primed to go long periods of time with no food. That's why we store body fat, to help us through those long periods of time. This is the first time, the last 50 years is the first time in human evolution where we don't fast at all. Like, we actually eat multiple times a day, every single day. This is the first time in human history that we've ever been able to do that, right? So if you think of a species, we are now usually, from a species point of view, from a human race point of view, food was always the hardest thing to get, and malnutrition was nearly one of the leading causes of death, always, right? Because of lack of food. We were undernourished. Malnutrition due to undernourishment. Well, now we are actually undernourished, but we're overfed. Does that make sense? So we're actually overfed for the first time in our existence, but we're undernourished because we don't eat the right food. We have to bring back our health, and we're going to focus on prioritizing these things. You should be able to fast for 24 hours or 3 days once a month, just for good health, because your body's actually designed to do that. all your hormone regulation will come back and fantastic if you can apply this one tool. So again, give me a thumbs up if you're still in the program. If you need any help, message me privately even if you want. But you're doing well, keep it going. Stay in contact today, reach out on the group. You will need it today because going up until 4 o'clock is tough mentally. It's not tough physically. You can do this. It's the wee voice in your head telling you can't because you've never done it before. Alright? You're doing great. Keep it up.